Did John Harbaugh call out Ravens fans and media after taking a victory lap on Daniel Faalele? It certainly seems like it. We'll talk about that and so much more coming up next on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens. We are your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, and I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here on this Purple Friday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. And we are here for you on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe as well. We're a 5-day week plus more daily Ravens show, and it's the same show, both audio and video, so you're not missing out on any of our content. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Purple Friday means Sam Njoku of Ravens Talk is back with us today. And Sam, big Week 18 matchup, stakes-wise. If the Ravens win this game, they win the AFC North. In terms of the team they're playing in the Cleveland Browns, they're not going to have a lot of guys, and even so, it's not nearly the same Cleveland Browns team we saw back a couple months ago when they were able to defeat the Ravens. This one feels a little more different.
It is going to be a crazy game for me because we're two teams going in entirely different directions. The Ravens are soaring on a winning streak. They're taking care of business, winning 3 games in 11 days. The Browns' internal turmoil, Myles Garrett asking himself, do I really need to be here? What type of team am I really playing for? It's for the stakes wise, yes, this is going to be a huge game, but these two teams are going in entirely different directions. And seeing as how the Browns fans don't really care for the Ravens, it's a little sweet if you're a Ravens fan to see this team going in the opposite direction, and the Ravens are fighting for a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, and again, I think this is a wide open AFC. It's a wide open NFL, in my opinion. I think anybody could go and take this thing, and the Ravens seem to be peaking at the right time and hitting their stride at the right time. So look, I'd love to see them go out there and continue that momentum against Cleveland. We'll get to that a little bit in the final part of the show. We'll preview the game, which is on Saturday. Don't go turn your TVs on Sunday at 1 looking for the game. It's not going to be there. Saturday, 4:30 is when this game is. But Sam, the Ravens, they put on a clinic in Pro Bowlers. The Pro Bowlers were announced on Thursday, 9 of them for the Ravens, the most in the league, and many other alternates in this conversation. So one of the big alternates that surprised a lot of people was Daniel Faalele, someone who, of course, has taken a lot of criticism this year and has had some up and down play. Certainly is a better player now than he was at the beginning of the season. I commend his growth. Still some things he has to work on for sure, but I think based off of what we saw at the beginning of the year, that couldn't continue, and he's made an effort to get better. But John Harbaugh was asked about Daniel Faalele, and he took a victory lap here about Daniel Faalele, and he feels good for all his guys. And the Ravens obviously do things their own way. But man, he was calling out the media a little bit, saying, quote, "I feel great for Daniel Faalele." He had to take a lot of criticism from some standing around this very circle right here. When are you going to replace Daniel Faalele? And we didn't bite. It paid off. He also went into detail about how Faalele doesn't have to just read what people thinks he's not. And obviously, Sam, the Pro Bowl votes work, as we know, as 1/3 fans, 1/3 coaches, 1/3 players. So coaches and players, seemingly, because I'm not sure a ton of fans voted for him, so coaches and players seemingly feel very highly about Daniel Faalele. But John Harbaugh kind of saying, hey, all the media who criticized them, all the fans who criticized them, we didn't bite on all that. We kept them in here. And went as far as to say that people even asking him the questions yesterday on Thursday were a part of that. So I think that John Harbaugh feels very vindicated in the fact that Faalele was recognized this way. And I don't necessarily blame him, but I do think is it shocking to me if Faalele made it as an alternate? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he did. It's a great accomplishment. But I think that there were some snubs. There were some guys that, could have made it over the others. But John Harbaugh is one happy camper about this whole situation to the part where he's even just, hey, media, fans, we heard all that. We didn't care. And here you go. Daniel Faalele is a Pro Bowl alternate.
I get it. If I was John, I think I'd probably do the same thing. A little rib at the media and fans for dotting him. But look, listen, Daniel Faalele is not a finished product by any means. Look, when it's good, it's great. You know, when his ability to take on blocks and be that guy to push guys on the opposite side of the field away with his size and strength is very imposing on opposing defenses. And there are limited opportunities in which he is a liability. But when he's a liability, and he can cost you big games. You saw it against the Eagles. We saw it against the Chiefs in week 1. Not again, we talk about this every week. Not a lot of teams in the NFL, especially in the AFC, that have that front four that can really cause problems for Daniel Faalele in the postseason. But it is a mark in the right direction that he is an alternative, not a Pro Bowl starter, just an alternative, but still that is a huge accomplishment based on what I've seen on film week in and week out from Daniel Faalele. Again, he's not a finished product, but if you want to go ahead and raise your head up high and say that you snubbed, took one to the media and took one to the fans, and go ahead, John, you definitely deserve that joy. But I mean, when it's all said and done, Daniel Faalele is who he is, and I hate being that guy again because he is a raw talent, and we see the vision from John Harbaugh, and it might get there one day, but right now here he's good for what the Ravens are trying to do. But if the defense forces you into a situation in which you have to, be quick on your feet and make decisions on the fly, Daniel Faalele is not that guy. But kudos to him. He made the Pro Bowl, and I'm sure John Harbaugh loves it.
And hey, John Harbaugh had to answer a lot of questions about Daniel Faalele. The Ravens do their own thing. They don't pay attention to the outside noise, but that noise can get loud. And I'm sure that people within the organization saw fans kind of clamoring for offensive line changes, especially when it wasn't going well with Daniel Faalele. And again, I give him a lot of credit for becoming better than he was and improving throughout the course of the season. And as you mentioned, Sam, no, he's not a finished product. You're exactly right. But he's better than where he was. And it's a great accomplishment. But the criticism that has been thrown his way, I don't think that was misplaced, because I think that it was deserved when it was. Now, again, when he's had good games, we talked about it here. Like, there are games where Faalele looks awesome and looks great. And like you said, you can see the vision of what John Harbaugh sees and what this Ravens organization sees. But I'm just glad that we are not talking about the offensive line looking the way that it did over the first 2 weeks of the season, when they were actively a massive reason why the Ravens were losing games. So congratulations, obviously, to Daniel Faalele. That's a huge accomplishment and a huge honor. And when you look at the 9 Pro Bowlers the Ravens placed on the roster, Faalele, again, an alternate, the 9 actual Pro Bowlers: Lamar Jackson, surprise, surprise; Derrick Henry, again, surprise, surprise. But then you have Patrick Ricard, Zay Flowers, Tyler Linderbaum, Roquan Smith, Nnamdi Madubuike, Marlon Humphrey, and Kyle Hamilton. Again, you have the alternates that include Faalele. You have Mark Andrews as an alternate, Ronnie Stanley, Chris Board for special teams, Kyle Van Noy, Nick Moore, and Justin Tucker. So, man, the Ravens just cleaned up with these Pro Bowlers, man. I mean, their roster is extremely talented, and obviously a lot of these guys deserve these nods. But, Sam, I want to go back and talk about one of these guys, and that is Zay Flowers, because he is the first receiver in Ravens history to make the Pro Bowl and be a Pro Bowl selection. And I know a lot of people were kind of having jokes when Devin Duvernay made it. Oh, Ravens wide receiver made the Pro Bowl. When it was obviously him being the special teams returner. But this is the first time ever. And I think it's a huge milestone for Zay. First of all, second-year receiver. He's already done so much, proven so much. But the fact that he took that step this season, and he and Lamar have established a connection. I think we've seen improvements in his game. I mean, how monumental is this that, one, Zay Flowers was able to be this good in this little amount of time, and two, that really the Ravens, this is their biggest hit on wide receiver in their franchise history, and it's already come to fruition so quickly.
Oh, yeah, and it's a monkey off the front office's back. Don't let them fool you. This is something that they've been trying to hit on for years. You've seen it. I mean, we've had some decent receivers in the day: Travis Taylor, Mark Clayton, other guys that have come in and stepped up, but never a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And we got that with Zay Flowers. Listen, I've been preaching about it for as long as I can remember. If you're a Ravens fan who followed me on social media, you know my shtick has been get this guy some help, and they finally do so with Zay Flowers out of Boston College. He has been exceptional. Even coming out of college, I knew if they hit on this guy, he would be a monumental addition to this roster. He has been just that, and that rapport of Lamar Jackson's only growing. Pair that with Rashod Bateman's growth, and you're starting to see, some real magic potentially for this offense. And it's just the beginning. This is the second year with this offense, and Zay Flowers is going to be a huge part of that. So, yeah, big accomplishment for both the front office and especially Zay Flowers. I know Zay Flowers is wanting to be one of those top tier receivers. This Pro Bowl pretty much affirms his belief that he's one of the best, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and there are a lot of good receivers in the AFC. Like, it wasn't just a situation where, oh, there's nobody else, we'll give it to Zay, whatever. No, Zay earned this over a lot of other talented receivers, one being Brian Thomas over there in Jacksonville, who a lot of people maybe say was a snub, but I think Zay earned this. I think Zay deserves this, and I'm so happy for him, and I love, Sam, that the Ravens show behind the scenes of these moments. You saw Zay reacting with Eric DaCosta and how incredible he was, said he couldn't even cry because he was just so overwhelmed with emotion. Like, that's how much it meant to him. You saw Derrick Henry go into the office. Like, it's all those behind-the-scenes moments that make it so much more special than even just seeing their names on a piece of paper or on a social media post about it. Now, one of the alternates, Justin Tucker, we know the struggles, the up and down year that he's had. Were you surprised that he made it as an alternate? Because there are talented kickers in the AFC. Tucker obviously is talented himself, but we know the year that he's had.
Yeah, I was a little shocked by it, but again, the name carries weight. The talent, as you mentioned, is there. We're starting to see him get better as the weeks progress, but I was a little shocked by it. I think there were some other deserving kickers, but as we've seen throughout near the end of this year, he has picked up his game. So I'm not upset about it. I'm sure if there are fans of other teams that wish their kicker got in, there may be a little bit of bad feelings about it. But I would say, Pro Bowl is kind of a popularity contest, and I'm sure when people look at kickers, they don't really know, the players especially, and the fans, you see a name that's familiar and they check that box. So not too surprised by it, but a little surprised because of the season he's had.
Yeah, and just for some added context on the Pro Bowls, Derrick Henry and Patrick Ricard, 5-time Pro Bowlers. Lamar Jackson, Marlon Humphrey, those guys now 4-time Pro Bowlers. Roquan Smith, 3rd-time. Linderbaum, Matabike, Hamilton, 2-time. And Zay Flowers is the first-timer, the only first-timer there. But there was an interesting tidbit here from Brian McFarland. Ravens salary cap does a great job kind of breaking things down from a salary cap perspective for this Ravens team. The second Pro Bowl selection for both Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum means that it will push both of their 5th-year options in 2026 to the 2025 franchise tag level. So that means 25 and 20 million. So Hamilton, 20 million, Linderbaum, 25 million, I believe. Both will be eligible for long-term extensions after the Ravens game against Cleveland in Week 18. Sam, how do you feel like this is going to play out? Because obviously they can't let either of these guys walk out the door. You have to re-sign both of them. It's going to cost them a lot of money to do so. It's going to be a worthy investment. But obviously the Ravens have a bunch of other big contracts. Some will be coming off the books. Are you worried at all about the salary cap situation over the next couple of years for the Ravens, or are you kind of calm and cool about it?
I think the Ravens do a pretty good job of making sure that they're prepared for this. I think we knew before this Pro Bowl selection was done that they were going to try and re-sign Zay Flowers. Tyler Linderbaum's a lock to remain a Raven. Is just the way it is. They usually do a good job of keeping their guys. So I'm not too worried about it. It is a thing that they have to do. Make sure you keep your core guys. The great thing about this team, a potential Super Bowl team, compared to the other Super Bowl teams in the past, is their core is comprised of young talent. Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson. King Henry is the guy that could potentially be on the wayside in a few years. But for the most part, offense and defensive side, you got core members who are young guys that can come in and be Ravens for years to come. So it's a good thing to get these guys locked up and then build around them through the draft. Maybe get a couple of undrafted free agents, a couple of cheap free agent options to build around these guys. But that's what teams like the Kansas City Chiefs have done. Again, it's crazy that the Ravens are a 5-loss team and have the most Pro Bowl selections in the league. It just goes to show you that this record isn't really encompassing, doesn't really show the talent and how great this team is. So I think the Ravens are going to be just fine. They're not going to take the same approach they did when they won the Super Bowl in 2012, getting rid of all their older guys. This is a team that's young. Their core nucleus is intact. Re-sign these guys, get them on the books for a few more years, and try and keep this thing going.
Yeah, and they have to. Again, there is such a big long-term vision with this team, particularly with Lamar at the helm. And obviously, while they're not going to be on rookie contracts anymore, doesn't matter. They're just too good to let walk out of the door. So you need to be able to get your guys in the building and keep them there for the long haul. But coming up in the second part of the show, the MVP conversation is going on, Sam. Did you know that was going on? It's kind of just a little thing that's happening right now. So we'll talk about the conversation continuing to heat up and so much more coming up next on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is a place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly. PrizePicks has got you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. I've been playing for a while now, and I'm having a blast. This week, I'm eyeing Jared Goff for more than 230 passing yards and Derrick Henry for more than 1 touchdown. It's so easy to use, and I love how fast the payouts are. Seriously, I've gotten paid out in as little as 15 minutes when my picks hit. Plus, weekly promos like Taco Tuesday discounts add even more value to my lineups. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. We're back, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still talking with you on this Purple Friday. Ravens and Browns face off tomorrow. Been forever since the Ravens have played on a Sunday, it feels like, with all the Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday business. And who knows, maybe their playoff game will be on Saturday as well. But big game for the Ravens. Clinch the AFC North if they're able to win. And I think this game, Sam, is going to hold some weight in the MVP conversation. Because if Lamar goes out there, maybe Jackson 5, perfect passer rating, puts up all these awesome numbers against the Browns, that might sway some people. On the flip side, if he has kind of a stinker game, doesn't really do a lot with it, maybe that pushes people back in Josh Allen's direction. Seems like it's a 2-team race between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen at this point. Josh Allen's still the favorite, but Lamar Jackson has been gaining on him for a decent while now, especially with the big wins he's had and Josh Allen having a little bit of a stinker game against the Patriots himself. But the conversation, there have been so many narratives that have been formed about everything, and honestly kind of hard to keep up with every single one of them. But the main gist of it is Lamar Jackson leads all the stat categories, but people are kind of pining for Josh Allen because, he's elevated guys better according to people, and he has the worst supporting cast. And that's where I want to start, because the Bills, one Pro Bowl selection outside of Josh Allen. It was Deion Dawkins, their left tackle. James Cook got snubbed, and I honestly, Sam, I think part of that has to do with Bills fans and the media just trying to trash Josh Allen's supporting cast. James Cook is an incredible player, should be in there. Joe Mixon, I think, is the controversial one that made it over him. But everyone's, Lamar has all these Pro Bowlers and all these Pro Bowl alternates. I'm like, look at this. I think it's a conversation. Amina Kimes, actually, who does a great job, I think, put it really well. Lamar Jackson has the best running back and tight ends. Joe Burrow has the best wide receivers, and Josh Allen has the best offensive line. It is not as simple as Lamar Jackson's supporting cast is clear, far, and away better. Is it? Sure, it's a better supporting cast than what Josh Allen has. I'll admit that. But there are a bunch of other nuances to it, and I think the Pro Bowl conversation is adding fuel to that fire. And by the way, when did we count the Pro Bowl as something serious after the last however many years? Are we now? Is that now the measuring stick, Sam? Did I miss something here?
It's ridiculous, and it goes to show you the lengths in which some of these people are going to make sure that their prediction or whatever their beliefs are vindicated. They'll find anything. They'll use Pro Bowls. They'll use supporting cast. They'll use arbitrary stats, whatever, and it's ridiculous. But I think, one, you're correct. I think Lamar has a better supporting cast, and that shouldn't be a knock. That should be celebrated that their front office is so good that they're turning in talent at the talent. And yes, Josh Allen doesn't have the best supporting cast compared to Lamar, and it shows in the stats, right? I mean, it shows when you have guys in the Pro Bowl, Lamar throwing for over 40 touchdowns, limiting his interception ratio. It's just one of those things where I'm not 100% sure where people are leaning. I've heard all types of arguments regarding these two guys in terms of the MVP. I've said it for weeks, and I'll continue to say it. Lamar is clearly the MVP at this point. There hasn't been anything in the last 3 weeks to sway my decision. To me, it was Josh Allen, show me that you're deserving of the MVP award. And all I continue to see is Lamar Jackson make play after play after play and make it look easy. So I don't really understand the narrative or the decision making by these guys to push that narrative. But again, I love Mina Kimes, that you mentioned. I think she's top 3, one of my favorite sports analysts out there today. So kudos to her. And I think that her argument leads credence. Yeah, Joe Burrow has some talent. Lamar has some talent. Josh Allen has some talent. What are you doing with your talent? How are you excelling your team? How are you excelling your play with the talent you receive? Lamar's doing by far a better job than any of those three in getting the job done.
Yeah, and I think for all three of these guys, even if you want to throw Joe Burrow in the conversation, me personally, Sam, I'm not doing that because I don't believe a wild card team should have an MVP. And look, if the Ravens lose the division, I will stay firm on that. Right? I think that it's just not as big of a difference from the 2 to the 3 seed and a 2-loss difference to throw away everything else that goes in Lamar's favor, like the stats, like the strength of schedule. If the Ravens were a wild card team, sure, completely agree. Wild card, I've been on that train all season. This is not just me saying this right now. But with Mina Kimes, she on her show, the Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny, she revealed that she is leaning towards Lamar. And the actual thing she said was, I'm going to vote for Lamar. And I think the deciding thing for me ended up being strength of schedule. I will say, though, if he drops a total dub this weekend, I'm probably going to go Allen because it's that close for me. And she actually made it clear that she hasn't fully decided, but she is leaning towards Lamar. And she mentioned a couple of things that don't show up on the box score stats or the general stats that you might look at between these two guys, like DVOA, which does factor in the opponent. Lamar Jackson is 51%. That's tops. Josh Allen, 26%. That's third. Strength of schedule, which I know is a big conversation point. Lamar Jackson's had the 5th toughest strength of schedule at this point. You and I have talked about it before, Sam. He has played every playoff team. He's beaten every one except for the Chiefs. Josh Allen, Lamar's 5th. Josh Allen, 19th. So it's that type of conversation. And we also heard Sam Rossini. We talked about this all yesterday on Locked On Ravens. She also said that she's leaning towards Lamar Jackson to the point that you made. She said, quote, I don't think that Josh Allen did anything in week 17 that made me go, oh, he stole this thing. And she also said she needed another week. Now, the odds over on our friends over at FanDuel, Josh Allen is minus 400, Lamar's plus 230. But it does feel like we see some people leaning towards Lamar Jackson, but it's such a close race. I don't really know how it's going to end up.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that Lamar's going to win it, if I'm being quite honest. Again, I've seen a lot of the voters lean that direction. I've seen some detractors go towards Josh Allen and their reasoning I don't agree with, but I get where they're coming from. But I'm fairly certain, unless, again, Lamar has a dud of a game against the Browns in the division clincher scenario, the Ravens end up to be a wild card team. I'm with you. Wild card teams that eliminate you from MVP talk, in my opinion. There have been wild card teams in the past that have hosted a MVP. I believe Peyton Manning was one, or maybe it was Stephen Manning, I cannot recall, but there have been 1 or 2 instances in the long history where it's happened. But in this case, because of how close it's looking, I think Josh Allen will get the nod if Lamar Jackson were to falter in week 18. But again, I like Lamar. I think he's shown more. He's done great. And that's not a knock on Josh Allen. It's just we're witnessing greatness with Lamar, and we need to respect that, appreciate it, and reward it. Besides going with the guy who hasn't had it before. And, of course, he's done good. And maybe some people thought that the Bills wouldn't be the team that they are, but that doesn't take away from what Lamar's doing.
Yeah, and it has never been shots at Josh Allen or saying, oh, Josh is he's such a worse quarterback. No, none of that is the reasoning here. It's just that we've mentioned the historic passer rating Lamar has had this season and the historic numbers Lamar has put up. And Josh Allen has made quite a bit of history himself. I'm not trying to eliminate that or not bring it up, but it just feels like with the stats factoring in, it is Lamar's award to me, but we're going to see how it plays out. And I want to get your opinion on this, Sam, because Emmanuel Acho, who has leaned pretty heavily towards Josh Allen, that has definitely been where he has gone. He went on the facility and made this statement. He said, Lamar has a better case for those who consume stats first and film second, but Josh has a better case for those who consume film first and stats second. This is an interesting opinion to me because I think when you watch the film for Lamar, again, not saying that Josh Allen does not have an impact on the film, but Lamar Jackson has this otherworldly impact where I think the Steelers game was the biggest example of this, where they had to send 1 or 2 guys at Lamar Jackson when he wasn't even in the play just to make sure. Plus, you see the incredible throws he makes, him evading sacks. I mean, where would this team be, Sam, if Lamar couldn't evade sacks the way that he does? I mean, that's a conversation where so many of his highlight plays have come off of an offensive lineman getting beat pretty badly and him escaping and making Houdini magic happen. Are you on board with Acho here? Or are you going to push back on this?
I have to push back. And you're being way nicer than I'm going to be. That was an idiotic statement. I mean, it was just downright stupid, especially because I watch film ad nauseum. I literally look at stats last. I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, I guess he's trying to push that objective. Okay, well, if you're a film guy, you're going to go with Josh. If you're just looking at the numbers, you're going to go looking at the film. It's even worse on film, the difference between Josh Allen and Lamar. Stats are, in my opinion, are keeping Josh Allen in it. The stats and the narrative that he's doing more with less. That's it. The film is by far leaning towards Lamar. I mean, Lamar jumps off on film every single play. Not the same with Josh Allen. So it kind of annoyed me. I mean, the first time I heard it, I thought my eyes were going to roll off my face the way my eyes were rolling at that statement. It's so ridiculous. I mean, I'm a fan of Acho because I think he does good television, but that take was awful. The film 100% leans towards Lamar Jackson. The numbers back it up. And Josh Allen's going with the narrative. Again, no knock on Josh. I think he's having a superb season. If he had this season last year with Lamar's numbers last year, yes, give it to Josh. But this is a season-altering, record-breaking year for Lamar. And we need to, again, respect that and appreciate it and reward it.
And I think for Lamar, the word I continue to use, Sam, is gravity. He just has so much gravity when you turn on film and you watch it. And not that Josh doesn't have that, but with Lamar, I agree with you. It's every single play that it happens. Like every play, defenses are terrified of what Lamar Jackson will do to them when it's just even a simple handoff. And you have to account for him because he is that dangerous. And you have a lot of dangerous quarterbacks in today's game, but it's just different with the way that Lamar Jackson does things. Coming up, though, there is a game on Saturday. It's a big one for the Ravens, but the opponent they're playing is a lot weaker than the first time the Ravens saw them. So we'll talk about a Ravens and Browns preview coming up next on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, how many points your team will score as well. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points your team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku, talking with you here the night before potentially clinchmas for the Baltimore Ravens as they have a shot to clinch the AFC North. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today on Locked On Ravens. Hit that like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Sam, this Browns team is hurting bad right now in multiple different ways. They are literally hurting because they have a lot of guys who are not going to play in this game due to injury. They're just in a bad spot. I mean, it's been a rough year for Cleveland overall. Honestly, I think they're both their signature wins this year have come against AFC North teams. Obviously, the Pittsburgh game and the Blizzard, and then the Ravens game with Jameis. Well, Jameis is not here to hurt the Ravens this time around. It's going to be Bailey Zappi as the Browns announced and as the reports are coming in, which is interesting because I think a lot of people thought it was going to be DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But it's not just the quarterback situation that really has this game feeling like it does right now, which in my opinion is a Ravens big victory. Overall, on our friends at FanDuel, 19.5-point favorites the Ravens are, which is an unbelievable. We were just talking like a month ago. The Ravens were what, 16, 15.5, 17, whatever it was. Two massive spreads in a month or less than a month. And Sam, honestly, 19.5 with the way this Browns team is looking right now, I don't think it's that crazy. Do you feel the same way about that?
I do. I think that if you're a betting guy and 19.5 seems too large, look at the tape, look at the film, and then look at the injury report. I mean, it's a shell of the Cleveland Browns. They want to get out of there. They're traveling to Baltimore. It's not at Cleveland. So they're traveling to Baltimore. They're starting a new quarterback for the first time. This quarterback isn't known to sling it and take advantage of a porous defense, something that the Ravens don't even have anymore. The first time these two teams played this season, the Ravens were dealing with some things on the back end. That's not the case anymore. So having a guy like Bailey Zappi, having I mean, who's going to be the running back for this team? I mean, Jerome Ford's out, Nick Chubb's out. What are you going to do? So it's so much going against the Browns. The only thing the Browns have going for them is Myles Garrett chasing the sack record. Other than that, it's just what are they fighting for? I mean, they're fighting maybe for an upset. It's not going to happen. Are the Ravens going to win? Yes. I'm very much willing to admit that. It's all about how much. 19.5 doesn't seem that far-fetched, especially what they did with the Giants. This team was even worse than that, considering the talent that they have on the field on Saturday, I should say. So I'm not too concerned with the spread, but I don't know. How do you feel about 19.5? It's up to you. I'll take the 19.5. I think the Ravens dominate.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Sam. The Browns are down their top 3 running backs. Donta Foreman is going to headline this backfield. No Nick Chubb, no Jerome Ford, no Pierre Strong. Myles Garrett, I think it was a little iffy if he was going to play, but he's not going to miss out on chasing that sack record. Limited on Thursday and didn't practice the first 2 days, but the Browns are also going to miss David Njoku. Denzel Ward's not going to play. Jordan Hicks not going to play. Has it been kind of hard for you with the film this week because there are just so many like new players and unknown? You're like, okay, yeah, well, if this is you got Nick Chubb on film. All these guys are out. Like, has it been weird for you trying to see all these new faces for Cleveland?
I'm glad you said that because it has absolutely been a nightmare to look at film. I'm looking like, okay, well, they do this, but they do that because this player excels at that. Well, he's not playing. Oh, Jerome Ford. Oh yeah, he's the guy that can pop off on the zone reads and sometimes make you pay for if you clinch too much at the line of scrimmage. Oh well, he's not playing either. So yeah, it's been tough. I just really have to look at it like, okay, I'm looking at Bailey Zappi film from 2 years ago when he was with the Patriots. I'm like, what am I going to do to really see what this team's all about? It's tough to look at the film. At the end of the day, you got to look at what the Browns have been doing throughout the season, what have the Ravens done throughout the season, and who has the better matchup. Clearly, it's the Ravens. Again, Bailey Zappi starting now. If he was good enough to start, if he was better than DTR, he would have been starting over DTR. So that tells you where the mindset of the Cleveland Browns are at. Of course, they want to see what they have with him before turning over to 2025. The Ravens are going to be clinching it up, I think. I think it's going to be time to put on the hats and the T-shirts because the Ravens are likely going to be AFC North champions for the second year in a row.
Yeah, hat and T-shirt game. That's what it is. So let's assume, Sam, I know we've talked about this. You and I had this conversation. But now that it's becoming a bit more real, now other scenarios are being eliminated. The Bills obviously have clinched the 2 seed, so there's no possibility of the Ravens there. Pittsburgh is just absolutely imploding before our eyes. There's like a ton of drama. Patrick Queen, Cam Hayward, George Pickens all over the place. Russell Wilson declining. Chargers are looking pretty good. I mean, Justin Herbert is looking really great right now. It's going to be one of those 2 teams coming to Baltimore. Assume the hat and T-shirts are clinched for the Ravens. Are you still leaning towards what we talked about last week, or has your opinion changed at all?
Okay, so I think the first time the Ravens played the Chargers, Roquan Smith wasn't playing in that game, and It was a big game for one of the linebackers. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had a was it Malik Ham that had the game, or
I think Chris Board had a huge
Chris
game.
Board, yes, he was the one that came to play and really showed himself out in that contest. They're not going to have that.
Malik Harrison, by the way, also.
Malik Harrison, Malik Harrison. So Roquan Smith being in the game definitely helps things out because, again, the Chargers are still a run-first team. J.K. Dobbins was out after the first half with an injury, so his implementation into the game plan may give the Chargers a better shot at it. I just don't like playing the same team 3 times in a row. And I'm in the belief that I think the Steelers losing 3 straight in 11 games, having these conversations on defense, I think they might be having with Mike Tomlin another type of conversation like the Ravens had after the Bengals game, and maybe get a resurgence going, maybe pick it up for that Bengals game. I just don't think that the offense, regardless, has what it takes to go far in the playoffs. But again, AFC North battles are always weird. So if it was me, I would rather play the Chargers. But if the Ravens play the Steelers, I still think they'll be heavy favorites. I think they'll be 7 to 8 point favorites in that contest because, again, the Ravens are just that much better than them.
Yeah, I think either way they'll be okay. Obviously, 2 tough teams. Like cakewalk games in the playoffs don't exist. So you have to be able to show up and play. But I'm with you. 3 times in a year playing a team, that gets a little dicey because it's all that they know us, we know them type of mentality. But first, they have to get the job done against the Browns. Sam, I don't think either of us are predicting a trap game in that one. So hopefully it will go the Ravens' way, and hopefully it'll go the Ravens' way in a big way. But Sam, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. Tell people where they can find you and what you're working on. Is again, we are after this week, it's playoff time. It's crazy. We're already here.
Yep. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Ravens Talk Podcast. You can find my podcast over on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast as well. We'll be doing shows every day, I believe, next week, heading towards the postseason, just to get you acclimated to what the matchups are, because it's a big time. The Ravens, for the first time in a long time, aren't going to be playing in the divisional round. They'll be playing in the wild card round. And I think not having that, not having to rush your starters, not having the bye week will pay dividends for them, I believe, this time around. So we'll be talking about that all throughout the week. You can also find me on Twitter X at Ravens Talk Podcast and on Instagram at Ravens Talk Podcast, where we do memes and talk about matchups and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Sam does a great job. Links in the description down below, as always. Be sure to check out his work. Be sure to support him. The man works hard, and he deserves everything that has come his way so far, and will continue to come his way, by the way, as well. But Sam, appreciate you as always, and thank you to everybody who tuned in to Locked On Ravens today. We'll be back here tomorrow because it is game day tomorrow. So we'll do a game day episode breaking down everything, and then we'll be live later after the game is over, talking about hopefully the Ravens clinching the AFC North. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, follow along in audio form. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.